What is going on? Let's get into today's trade recap. First of all, P&L, 6,792 on the day. Did 600 on some accounts, 650 on others. All around about 600 per account. As for account balances, don't want to show the name. All my accounts are now up 2 racks. I got them. I think my first trade on them was what? I passed them on CPI Friday. And then Monday was a bank holiday. I traded Tuesday, didn't trade Wednesday, traded Thursday, didn't trade Friday, just because of no trade opportunities those 2 days, and then traded today. So I'm 3 for 3 to start the accounts, which is great. So they're in a good spot. They're about halfway to when I will take my first payout. So that's all nice and well. So let's get into it. First of all, my bias. If we go to my pre-market analysis, which I also post for free in my daily bias journal every single day, I said bearish for today. My condition is to flip. My condition to flip is the 4 hour that we're currently in. If we go back on replay mode to open, we could see this 4 hour gap, this huge 4 hour gap. I was saying, listen, we might manipulate London high at open, but we inversed this 4 hour to the downside before and made this huge 4 hour BPR while doing that. So are we going to respect it? I think we will, and we'll be bearish. We inversed, yeah. I said I wouldn't hate a manipulation move at open to sweep London. And what do you know? That's what happened. London was a super obvious draw for opening candle, and it got hit immediately. If I were a scalper or didn't have a set strategy, I probably would have just entered longs at open. But I said longs will only be valid for me if we inverse the 4 hour and displace through London highs, aka if we just kept pumping, which we didn't. There was a new week opening gap up here as well that we didn't hit on NQ, but we did hit on ES. But I did say I wanted to see a sell-off to the unfilled hourly gaps below, which would be my obvious draw on liquidity. Which ones am I referencing? I'm referencing these two here on NQ, and then as you can see, they're here on ES as well. We did sell off to them, so let me just show you. So we did end up selling off to these guys, and let me go here. So we ended up selling off and getting a 15-second inversion. And I really, really like this trade. There was an external SMT at London low. We had bounced off these hourly gaps, which were my targets. We were nowhere near them on ES, though. However, no 30-second, no 1 minute. So the best gap was this 15-second, which I was like, listen, we're getting such a good reaction. I'm going to try to hop in and just scalp. Sadly, my fill was dog water, so I ended up getting filled like around here, stop about here, and it might have been even more like up here. And I was like, all right, stop below the fair value gap, I'll go for 1-to-1 and I'll go break even at these highs. What happens? I get break evened and then it runs for a lot. So very annoying, unfortunate, because I really liked the setup itself, but I did not like the fact that we were so wicky. If you go to the 1 minute, we were failing to make fair value gaps. We have this sell-off, no fair value gaps around here, just very accumulative price action. We then end up going into a 5 minute here, and we get a respect off this 5 minute. I kind of wanted to see if we could inverse this 5, but there was no chance we were doing that. Right at 10 a.m., what happens? We get a bit of a sell-off, and what is important about this sell-off is now we're touching these unfilled gaps on ES now. What happens on this first move? We make equal lows with London, and we never truly fill this gap. So I know a lot of people were probably trying to get in longs. Who knows, maybe they took it off this market structure shift, but I was like, no, I want to see ES resweep and actually tap that hourly gap before anything else. What happens? Just that occurs. We do that. No internal SMT, but we make an external SMT. Both assets have swept London low and tapped unfilled hourly gaps, which were my draws on liquidity. So I was like, all right, longs are so beautiful. And what's the cherry on top? Right when we inverse this gap, also made a unfilled 5 minute above. So I said, listen, this should go to the unfilled 5 basically immediately, like within one candle, and it does. There it is. So it does. And then some people wanted to leave runners. I never try to leave runners on plays like that, for the sole purpose of you usually end up getting a reaction off a 5 or a 15 unfilled gap. So, it's a very good chance you'll get break even on your runners, even if you end up being right, which obviously you do for a bit more, but Just like I said, price action was super accumulative today, so a lot of people get stopped out. But I mean, this is pretty A plus. Only negative of this trade is no internal SMT, but I loved the manipulation move to come back to the lower unfilled and the sweep of London with the external SMT, internal sweep, 30-second with great momentum, immediate V shape, unfilled 5 above. I mean, this is just a perfect target internally for our setup. A lot of guys in the live stream took it. About like 7 people caught this move along with me. Yeah, that's the day. So very, very simple. If you look at it, I also have it in my trading journal. Quick unfilled 5. Very, very similar to this play from, I believe this was Thursday, where we manipulated into a 5-minute right at 10 a.m., got an inverse, and then immediately got our TP at an unfilled 4-hour. 10 a.m. can really get you some good manipulation. Just make sure you're ready, because I know some people weren't able to make as much money as they wanted to today off this setup because of it happening so fast, so people weren't able to calculate the risk. So always be prepared, especially when 10 a.m. is coming around the corner, to have to calculate your risk and get into trade. All right, that's the fucking recap. Peace.